Hello, welcome to this episode of JAGcast. Today we have Mr. Cooley.
That's me, all day long, even if it's raining.
Yeah. So, this is the personal finance teacher here at South. And something also cool about him is that he works for the Royals. You do like the audio stuff with like the announcing?
No, actually, my job with the Royals has nothing to do with teaching or announcing. I'm the guest services supervisor.
That's right. I mistook you. You do the voice at the football games and stuff, right?
Here at Blue Spring South, yes. Yeah. So as far as like that little side hustle, I here at Blue Spring South, I do the PA announcing for football and volleyball in the fall season, and then girls and boys basketball in the winter, and then as much Jaguars baseball as I can do in the spring when it doesn't overlap with the Royals game that night. So those are my typical kind of announcing gigs around here. And then from that, I do some work for Misha, like I do the state volleyball championships in Cape Girardeau every year. I've done state football. I've done state soccer when it was hosted here in Blue Springs in years past. I've done track and field, basketball at the Mizzou Arena. So done a lot of Misha events off and on over the years as well as far as announcing goes.
All kinds of sports.
Yep.
Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about your work with the Royals?
Yeah, so at the Royals, I started in 1997. I was, like a junior in high school. I basically, so younger than most of the students I have in class now, and started as an usher. And then I worked in our first aid office for about 5 years, just making sure that if there was a medical emergency, that the personnel that needed to handle that got to the right place as quickly as possible, and then helping guests with disabilities and things like that as well. And then in 2002, I had a chance to move into the guest services office. And then in 2009, they made me the supervisor. So been doing that ever since. But basically, I manage anywhere up to about a dozen people on any given game day, and we staff the two guest services offices. And people come to us if they have a problem, if they have a complaint, if they have an issue with their food or their drinks. Then we get them in touch with Aramark, our service partner that manages all the food and beverage and retail and all that kind of stuff. So just kind of operate the troubleshooting center of the stadium, so to speak. And then we do some promotional things too. Like if it's your first game, you can come in and we give you a first game certificate that says welcome to the K, and in recognition of your first visit to the stadium. So we do a lot of positive things like that too.
Nice. So what got you into personal finance and teaching that here?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I guess we could go back very, very many years, but I'll kind of start with college. I mean, like I've told people in class before, I wasn't 100% positive what I wanted to do when I finished high school. I actually started as like a hospitality hotel restaurant major at UCM, and then decided I didn't really want to do that because I didn't want to have to take chemistry, which was a prerequisite to all the culinary classes that I was going to have to take, among other reasons. And then I was briefly an aviation major, and then realized how much that was going to cost, because not only do you have to pay for all your classes, you got to pay for all your flight time and fuel and instructors and all that kind of stuff too. And so then I kind of had some business classes sitting on my transcripts, so I was just kind of a general business major, and then got into education and business education, because at the time I thought I really wanted to coach, which is kind of ironic now because I haven't coached since 2011, and don't really miss that. So that's kind of my lead to business education. And then I was an aide over at Blue Springs High School for a year, and then I got my first teaching and coaching job, here at Blue Springs South. And I think in the first 3 years I was here, I taught like 13 different classes in 3 different rooms. It was like I never had a consistent schedule. I was teaching keyboarding classes, old-fashioned ASDF, JKL, semicolon typing classes back in the day. I was teaching a Visual Basic Programming class that I didn't really know much about. I was teaching Intro to Business. I was teaching business law. I was just going back and forth physically between different rooms and mentally between different preps all the time. And then in like 2009, I think officially, the personal finance class, which its predecessor here in Blue Springs was kind of more of a life skills class called Senior Seminar that I had taught a couple sections of here and there. But Mr. Maxey, our principal at the time, approached me and said, hey, the state is making this personal finance class a requirement. Would you be interested in teaching teaching it. And I said, does that mean that, I'm not going to be teaching a dozen different classes over the course of the year now? And he said, yeah, since it's a graduation requirement, it would probably be all you teach, all day. And so I said, okay, sign me up. And so that's what I've been doing ever since. So initially it was like, I just wanted to be able to focus on something and have my own classroom. So that's what initially got me into it. And I've pretty much been doing it ever since. Every once in a while, Dr. Belt, when he was here, he would check in with me every once in a while and be like, hey, are you sure you're still okay doing this 12 times a year? Six spring sections and six fall sections. And so far, that's still been the case. Like, I'd rather just, focus on the personal finance. And if the opportunity to teach something else came up at some time, I'd consider it, but I kind of like where I'm at, just with trying to do one thing and do it well, hopefully. So,
all right. I've noticed that with your students, you get a lot of engagement out of them, and they really like the class. And personally, I take it as well. I really like it.
Good.
Would you say you do anything differently than other teachers to get the students to like the class?
If I do, I've never been able to put my finger on it. That might be a better question for you and your classmates, and something that I kind of ask when I do my end of the semester survey. And that might be part of it. Is like I've said, and it's true, in especially recent years, and especially since COVID, I heavily weigh what I do based on, and how I do it based on the feedback of your predecessors, of the people that have taken this class before you. And so I think taking that into consideration, maybe at least subconsciously, kind of helps to build that engagement, and maybe have students feel like that they have some input, at least after the fact. Beyond that, I guess just try and meet people where they're at, try and keep the academic accountability in play, but don't make mountains out of molehills, and try to keep things as practical but as simple as possible. And I think the curriculum itself, if I just get you to buy in that this is good real life information that you're not going to be able to just close your textbook and ignore, like you might be able to do in some other situations when it comes to real life, that if you realize, okay, this is actually going to help me get hopefully started off on the right foot as far as managing my money in real life goes, that I can get the buy-in in that way. But beyond that, like, no particular like magic tricks or something that I feel like I do a lot differently than anybody else does. Just, I guess, for the amount of time I've been doing it, I feel like if I've been doing it for this long, I hopefully am decent at it by now, or at least I should be. And then just getting some buy-in from students, and just the nature of the course and how practical it is, I think probably helps me out more than anything.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool class. I think the way you teach it is really cool.
Good. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd want to let everyone know about personal finance, and like something you think everyone should know?
Well, just like somebody was asking me about budgeting the other day, and that's maybe one of my weak points is, I don't make students like actually, or at least pretend to like, hey, go keep track of how much money you've spent, for the whole week, or at least, not officially, because, that can be all over the place, and who knows if anybody's even, accurate with their information or whatever. But, I would say the simplest piece of advice is just make sure that you're always making more money than you spend, as much as possible. And I say, 10 or 11 months out of the year at least. Sure, you buy holiday gifts for somebody or whatever. Yeah, in December you might do some deficit spending, but if the majority of the time, paycheck to paycheck, you can bring in more money than what you're spending, well, then I don't think the bill collectors are going to come, knocking at your door. So, that's, I guess, my overall advice, or what to know about personal finance is don't overcomplicate it. Don't worry about if you feel intimidated by sitting down and making a big budget in Excel, because, honestly, that's not something that I do frequently. I have, but personally, I don't do that frequently. The more important thing is just pay attention to, do I have more money coming in than I do going out? And again, if you can do that 10 or 11 out every 12 months of the year, you should always be in at least decent shape to where you can pay your bills and not have to worry about living in that paycheck to paycheck mentality, because you don't want to be, stuck in that rut that, throughout the course of your life and your career, that you're always just waiting for the next paycheck until you can do this or pay that bill. So you always want to have at least a little bit extra to work with.
Yeah, that's great advice. Is there anything you think everyone should know about you as a person?
I don't like onions.
All right.
No, I mean, I guess not. I mean, I have nothing to hide, I guess, so to speak. So, I'm very open, with my own, financial situation in class. And when we look at mortgages, we'll look at my mortgage, and so I guess just that I'm open and available for conversation. So whether I have you in class or not, if you've got any financial situations or need some advice or help with your taxes, or like I say in class, if you especially feel like your life is lacking a financial role model, try and find one. And if that needs to be me, then, I can help you fill that void.
All right.
So
I think that's pretty much everything we had.
Okay.
That's all we got for today.
All right.
I'm Nathan Boehm. This is Mr. Cooley. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate the opportunity.
No problem.
All right.